It's not a lack of talent. It's not carelessness. There's a silent blockage that closes the doors to prosperity when night falls, and almost no one notices. You fulfill your obligations, you pursue them, you dedicate yourself, but when you finally lie down on your pillow instead of rest, you receive a flood of worries. It's like trying to fall asleep with invisible chains tightening around your chest. Imagine this scene. Your eyes close, but sleep won't come. Your body cries out for rest, but your mind feels like a storm. Every thought is like water slipping through your fingers. The more you try to hold it in, the more it slips away. This is the silent reality of thousands of people who believe that prosperity is achieved only through physical effort, when in fact the prison lies elsewhere, in the invisible. It's like pedaling a bicycle tied to a rack. There's movement, sweat, fatigue, but no progress. This cycle is formed by ingrained beliefs, inherited phrases, memories of pain that echo in the subconscious. You don't deserve it. Money isn't for you. Those who prosper always pay dearly. While these voices dictate the rules, abundance knocks at the door, but no one stands up to receive it. But there's a hidden key to this labyrinth. A simple practice done before bed can connect with the unconscious, dissolve blockages, and align your energy with the flow of wealth. Napoleon Hill warned, "What the mind can imagine and believe, it can achieve." This power can be sown every night, like a seed sown in fertile soil. Today, I'm going to show you how to use this key. Have you ever noticed how, when night falls, certain truths you managed to hide during the day simply emerge? Between appointments, meetings, and obligations, we seem to be able to mask our worries. But as soon as we lie down in silence, our minds reveal what was hidden. It's at this moment, between pillow and thought, that the nagging question arises. If I try so hard, why does prosperity never seem to settle into my life? This doubt isn't unique to you. It permeates thousands of homes, echoing like a collective anguish. People who work hard, who spare no sacrifice, who apply every conceivable logic, yet still feel that abundance remains forever just out of reach. Life becomes a repetitive gear. You achieve something today, tomorrow a new bill arises. You pay one debt, another even bigger one appears. It's the feeling of rowing in a rough sea, never reaching dry land. And this weight isn't just in the bank account. It settles in the soul. It comes in the form of frustration, sleepless nights, and silent questions that erode hope. That feeling of injustice arises. What else do I need to do? Why does it always seem like something's missing to prosper? The truth is harsh, but liberating. It's not a lack of effort. It's not incompetence. What really blocks the flow of prosperity are invisible programs lodged in the unconscious. Inherited beliefs, never-healed emotional wounds, phrases repeated since childhood that have become internal law. While the conscious mind desires growth, the unconscious mind sends contrary signals, pulling you back to square one. Napoleon Hill stated that imagination combined with faith becomes a creative force. But what happens when conscious faith and unconscious fears move in opposite directions? Silent sabotage arises. You build, but something crumbles. You move forward, but something pulls you back. The good news is that there is a turning point. And it's exactly where many least expect it, in the moment of rest before falling asleep. During this period, when the conscious mind relaxes, the unconscious opens like fertile soil, ready to receive new seeds. If you learn to use this moment consciously, you can reframe beliefs, dissolve blockages, and finally align your energy with the flow of abundance. That's what we'll talk about here. How to identify invisible blocks, how to recognize them as inheritances that don't belong to you, and most importantly, how to transform them through a simple ritual, repeated every night. A small gesture, but with the power to open paths that currently seem closed. And before we go any further, I have an invitation. If you've ever felt trapped in this cycle of unrewarding effort, share your experience in the comments. Also, tell me which city and country you're watching this video from. You'll discover you're not alone. There's a silent community of seekers facing the same pain and walking toward the same awakening. If this message resonates with you, consider subscribing to the channel, not as an automatic gesture, but as part of a conscious choice to walk alongside people who have also decided to transform their relationship with money and live in tune with abundance. Have you ever wondered why some people dedicate themselves immeasurably and yet seem to be walking on quicksand? From the outside, everything seems to indicate that the person is doing the right thing, working, studying, organizing, trying again. Inside, however, there's a silent mechanism that pulls you back, like a rubber band tied to your waist. You run, the rubber band stretches, but when you're one step away from achieving your goal, it retracts and puts you back where you started. This mechanism has many names, but here we'll call it hidden loop. Napoleon Hill described the terrain where this bond is born. The mind is a fertile field, and whatever you plant there, watered by emotion and repetition, flourishes. The problem is that most of us have learned, without realizing it, to water the seedbed with fear, guilt, and inherited beliefs. The result: when life offers a breakthrough, a seemingly rational thought arises. It's not the right time. It's risky. What if I miss it? Within seconds, the impulse fades, and the opportunity passes by like a train that won't wait for anyone. This bond manifests itself in sophisticated ways. Sometimes it is the fear of losing. You achieve something, but you start to live in a state of vigilance, as if at any moment it could be stolen. In others, it is the guilt for receiving. The money arrives, and without knowing why, you feel the need to get rid of it quickly, like someone carrying something they shouldn't. There's also the script of penance. Thriving would mean paying a price, pushing people away, giving up peace, becoming someone you don't want to be. All of this sounds logical, but it's the bond speaking softly. The conscious mind even argues, I want to grow, I will. However, the unconscious, which is what really drives when you relax, operates an ancient script. Hill reminded us that well-directed imagination is a creative force. And what is a belief if not imagination, repeated until it becomes internal law? If deep down your imagination works against your desire, you live in misalignment. One part accelerates, the other steps on the brake. Think of a powerful river. The source is abundant, the water is there, but an invisible dam has been built a few kilometers away. You look at the bank and say, there's no water here, it must be dry. It's not dry, it's blocked. Prosperity is flow, ideas, connections, decisions, resources, and the hidden bond acts like this dam. As long as it holds, any effort seems insignificant and any gain seems unstable. It's at night that the loop becomes clear. You lie down and, instead of surrendering your body to rest, you turn your pillow into an auditing table. Your brain reviews bills, remembers last month's debt, anticipates problems that may never even occur. What few realize is that this I'm anxious. It's not just a nuisance, it's a negative ritual. You fall asleep by planting images of scarcity precisely at the moment when the unconscious is most open to accepting commands. Hill insisted on a simple principle: what is repeated with emotion becomes belief. If you replay loss scenarios every night, your system will record loss as a likely reality. If, on the contrary, you deliver images of order, abundance, gratitude, and capacity, the unconscious will work in your favor. There's no magic here. There's neuroassociation and emotional discipline. The untying of the bond, guided nighttime practice. So that this conversation doesn't stay on the plane of good ideas, here's a direct exercise that will get you started today. Prepare the field. 2 minutes. Lying down, hands on your abdomen. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4, hold for 2, and exhale for a count of 6. Repeat 6 times. The goal is to signal to your body, we are safe. Without this message, no command succeeds. Shape the loop. 1 minute. With your eyes closed, imagine the blockage as something concrete, a knot of rope, a padlock, a wire mesh. It doesn't matter what shape it is, it matters to have a figure. The unconscious understands images better than paragraphs. Bring to flame, 1 minute. Visualize a small golden flame at chest height. With each exhalation it grows a little, like an ember receiving air. This flame represents your creative power, Hill's burning desire, fueled by faith. Release strand by strand, 3 minutes. See your hands untying the knot, opening the padlock, breaking the mesh. Do this slowly, with intention. As you untie, repeat mentally in rhythm with your breath. I deprogram fear and instill trust. I release scarcity and empower flow. Install the final image, 2 minutes. Project a scene onto the screen of your mind specific of peaceful prosperity. You paying something off calmly, opening a statement and smiling, receiving a message of opportunity. Feel the excitement as if it were now. Relief, gratitude, dignity. Close with keyword, 30 seconds. Choose a short anchor to repeat until you fall asleep. Fluo, insurance, abundant. Simplicity overcomes dispersion. This script takes just a few minutes and has 3 pillars: body safe, directed image, emotion felt. Without a calm body, the mind resists. Without an image, the unconscious does not register. Without emotion, it does not fix. But it seems forced, a voice will say. Of course it does. You've practiced the path of the lasso for years. A new path always sounds strange. Hill said that persistence is to character what carbon is to steel. It's repetition that binds. 30 nights are worth more than 3 enthusiasms. Notice the signs that the loop is loosening. Situations that previously ended in loss are now resolved without drama. Opportunities you hadn't seen before start to appear. They were always there. Actionable ideas emerge upon waking, as if someone had worked for you while you slept. The body wakes up less tense. The gaze is more open, the judgment less catastrophic. Don't confuse signs with hasty miracles. Prosperity is competence in flux. The nightly practice does not replace action. She lines the action to an internal field that stops sabotaging. You continue studying, selling, negotiating, delivering, just without the invisible hand that was turning the steering wheel away from the destination. Perhaps you've learned that money comes only from raw effort. Effort counts, a lot of it, but misaligned effort turns into a false start. What this chapter offers you is the opportunity to synchronize commitment and belief. When belief changes, the quality of your effort changes with it. Clearer choices, smarter risks, more precise timing. And here's a reminder that few give. Don't argue with the voice of the bond. Observe and replace. Arguing with it in the dark only strengthens it. When the thought, "I can't do it," comes, respond only with your anchor and return to the final image. You're not trying to overcome the voice. You're discontinuing the habit that feeds it. If you want to reinforce this throughout the day, practice micro-anchoring, 3 breaths, plus a keyword before sending a proposal, meeting a client, or opening a banking app. It's not superstition, it's emotional hygiene. You teach the system. It is safe to thrive. We then come to the direct point. Do this before bed, and you will start to notice the money approaching in discreet and consistent ways, not by luck, but because the inner river flows again. The mind, disciplined and touched by the right emotion, becomes a magnet for opportunities. What once slipped through your fingers now finds a place in your hands. Once the first loop is untied, a second character often appears, an ancient voice, sometimes sweet, sometimes sarcastic, that tries to reinstate the old programming with sensible phrases. It appears mainly when you're about to climb a step. To move forward firmly, we need to illuminate it, recognize where it came from, how it operates, and how to silence it without fighting. A disciplined mind, touched by the right emotions, becomes a magnet for opportunities. What once slipped through your fingers now finds a place in your hands. And it is in this moment, when the knots begin to loosen, that a more subtle presence manifests. That inner voice that, uninvited, whispers doubts, insinuates fears, and tries to return you to old ways. It is this voice that needs to be acknowledged, not to be fought, but to be transformed into an ally. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine your mind as a large house. During the day, you move through the brightly lit rooms, open windows, organize tasks, talk to people, make decisions. But when night falls and the lights go out, a discreet door silently opens. Behind it lies a dark room where memories, old phrases, images of failure live. It is from this hidden space that the silent voice that erodes your confidence arises. This voice doesn't shout, it doesn't need to. A whisper at the right moment is enough to dampen enthusiasm. About to close a deal, it whispers, "What if it goes wrong?" Thinking about investing in something new, she suggests, "You can't handle this." Do you feel joy when you receive an unexpected payment? She reacts, "Be careful, this might get lost soon." The effect is devastating because it doesn't seem to come from outside. It seems like your own thinking, and that's precisely why it's so convincing. Napoleon Hill compared the mind to a garden. If you don't plant flowers, the weeds grow on their own. This voice is a collection of these weeds, beliefs that sprouted from painful experiences, unfair comparisons, and repeated messages from an early age. When someone told you that money changes people, or when you watched family members fight over an inheritance, or when you failed in an attempt and were reminded of it for years, every detail fed the weed. Over time, the voice began to echo as truth. The unconscious doesn't question. It doesn't ask if it makes sense. It simply records. A phrase spoken with emotion is recorded as law. This is why so many people live in a cycle of self-sabotage. They create, but give up before the result. They achieve, but lose soon after. They accumulate, but spend impulsively. They don't realize that the guiding thread is this hidden voice, always repeating the same script. Hill called this involuntary auto-suggestion. Even unintentionally, you suggest to yourself every day that you don't deserve it, that you can't, that it won't work. It's like watering the garden of your mind daily with doubts and expecting prosperity to sprout. The harvest, inevitably, will be scarcity. But there's one detail that changes everything. If the voice was born from repetition, it can also be undone by repetition. It's like a train track. After years, the path is set, but nothing stops a new one from being built. At first, it's narrow, overgrown, and difficult to navigate. But the more you use it, the more solid it becomes, eventually replacing the old one. This is precisely why the moment before sleep becomes so precious. During the day, the conscious mind is active, questioning, discussing, and interfering. At night, it relaxes, and the unconscious remains open, like fertile soil awaiting seeds. If you seize this moment, you can plant new phrases, new images, new emotional states. The hidden voice will continue to try to manifest itself, but it will encounter competition. Hill asserted that faith transforms any idea into reality when combined with emotion. Repeating cold phrases doesn't change anything. You have to feel. So when the old voice arises, don't fight it with anger. Just acknowledge, I know where you came from. I know it's not the absolute truth. Then replace it with a consciously chosen affirmation. Something simple yet emotionally charged. I am worthy of abundance. I allow prosperity to flow to me. At first, it will seem artificial. Part of you will laugh. I'm talking to myself. But remember, the hidden voice was also born this way, from seemingly small phrases that gained strength over time. The process is the same, only now with conscious direction. It's like opening a new trail in the middle of a dense forest. For years, you've only walked the path of scarcity, clear, well-trodden, easy to navigate. When you decide to repeat new affirmations, you begin to wander down a path overgrown with branches. It's laborious, but as you persist, Each step makes the passage clearer. One day, the new trail becomes the main road, while the old, abandoned one is overgrown. This is the power of conscious autosuggestion, no longer being held hostage by an inherited voice and starting to choose which voice to feed. It's not about eliminating negative thoughts that would be fighting the nature of the mind. It's about weakening them little by little, offering more consistent alternatives. Hill reminded us that faith is the starting point of all achievement. Faith, not as a religious concept, but as an inner certainty. When you repeat an affirmation before bed and feel gratitude as if it were already real, your unconscious registers it as a law. Over time, this law begins to manifest itself in firmer decisions, bolder choices, and a less fearful outlook on the future. Gradually, the hidden voice loses strength, like a radio out of tune, and the signs of this change become noticeable. Situations that would previously have made you give up are now faced with calm. Impulsive spending diminishes, and you find yourself naturally controlling yourself. The fear of loss gives way to a calm, almost imperceptible but constant confidence. A new pattern emerges. Instead of expecting the worst, you start hoping for the best. None of this is coincidence. It's a reflection of an unconscious that has stopped repeating phrases of scarcity and started recording images of abundance. And perhaps the most surprising thing is realizing that not all of these voices were born within you. Some are much older echoes, passed down from generation to generation, like invisible inheritances that transcend time and silently shape our relationship with money. There are moments in life when you look back at your own story and have the strange feeling that you're simply repeating a script written before you were even born. It's as if every financial decision, every achievement, and every loss follows a path already blazed by other feet, other voices, and other lives that came before you. You dedicate yourself, dream, and try to forge a different path. But at some point you realize that the results are too similar to those experienced by your parents, grandparents, or even great-grandparents. This repetition doesn't happen by chance. It's the result of an invisible inheritance, a kind of silent code passed down through generations, shaping how we deal with money and prosperity. Napoleon Hill said that thoughts are things, and that not only our own, but also the thoughts inherited from those who came before us, leave their mark. Imagine a family that has experienced painful bankruptcies, persecutions that robbed them of their possessions, extreme poverty, or injustices that destroyed opportunities. These experiences aren't limited to isolated memories. They become repeated beliefs, phrases passed down as survival lessons. Money only brings trouble. Better to have little and live in peace. Those who are rich always lose their soul. These phrases, spoken with emotion and fear, were recorded as absolute truths and passed down from generation to generation until they reached you. You may not even realize where certain reactions come from, but as soon as you approach an opportunity, you feel fear. Perhaps when you win a larger sum, a silent guilt creeps in. Perhaps when you think about investing, you recall stories of failures that weren't even yours, but that resonate as if they belonged to your own life. It's like carrying a heavy suitcase whose contents no one has properly explained, but which dictates the speed and destination of your journey. This is the invisible inheritance that traps many in patterns they never consciously chose. Hill reminded us that no destiny is absolute, but that internal programming can convince us otherwise. And family inheritance works exactly like that, like a mental script installed without your permission. You may have heard your mother talk about financial hardship. You may have seen your father give up on dreams for fear of losing what little he had. You may have heard your grandparents tell stories of scarcity as if they were parables of life. Each of these words was planted in you like a seed, and without realizing it, you watered that field for years. The first step to breaking this chain is understanding that not every voice within you is truly yours. Many are echoes of people who lived through times of deprivation and imparted what they believed to be wisdom. At some point, this wisdom was useful. After all, it helped them survive. But what was protection for them may be imprisonment for you. There's no need to deny or reject those who came before. What's necessary is to honor your history while choosing not to repeat the burden they carried. Now imagine closing your eyes and visualizing a long line of people behind you. Parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, generations who lived before. Each one holds a heavy chain in their hands. They hand these chains to you, and you feel the weight, the pressure, the discomfort of dragging them. These chains represent guilt, fear, and limitations tied to money. Now imagine a golden flame before you. As you raise the chains toward this flame, you notice the metal slowly begin to dissolve, eventually disappearing. As you do so, you silently affirm, "I honor history, but I choose not to repeat the weight. I release this inheritance and make space for abundance to flow." This symbolic gesture has a profound impact because the unconscious works with images. It doesn't distinguish between the imagined scene and reality. By visualizing the chain disappearing, you send a clear message that you don't need to remain trapped in the same patterns. And the effect isn't just individual. By freeing yourself, you also honor your ancestors in a higher way, as you show that the abundance they couldn't experience can finally blossom through you. Hill asserted that no man is defeated until he accepts defeat as reality. The same goes for inherited defeats. As long as you believe you must repeat your family's past, you remain trapped in it. But when you decide you can write a new story, something breaks. Inheritance ceases to be a sentence and becomes fuel for transformation. This liberation, however, doesn't happen automatically. It requires consistency because inherited chains have been reinforced over decades and even centuries. Visualizing once isn't enough. It's necessary to repeat the exercise night after night as part of a liberation ritual. And nighttime, once again, is the most powerful time for this. Before sleep, your unconscious mind is open and receptive. By repeating images of release, phrases of abundance, and feelings of gratitude, you record a new script that replaces the old narratives. If you inherited the belief that money is dangerous, replace it with, "Money is an energy that supports and strengthens me." If you inherited a fear of loss, declare, "I trust the flow of prosperity and use my resources wisely." If you learned that a little is better than risk, affirm, "I am worthy of full abundance, and it comes to me harmoniously." Each sentence is a seed. The more you plant, the more you transform your inner earth. Over time, something extraordinary begins to happen. You realize that you're not only changing yourself, but also creating space for your family and even future generations to live differently. What seemed like a hereditary curse becomes a legacy of resilience. The burden that was passed down in silence for so long is now dissolved, and in its place emerges proof that thriving is possible. And this is where the nightly practice takes on an even greater dimension. Because by dissolving inherited chains, you not only clear your inner field, but also create fertile space for new rituals that will permanently reprogram your energy. The void left by old limitations needs to be filled with images, words, and feelings that align you with the prosperity that is already available. There's a moment in the day when everything seems suspended. The body begins to relax, the eyes grow heavy, the breathing changes rhythm. It's at this threshold between wakefulness and sleep that a silent portal opens. There, the boundaries of the conscious mind dissolve and the unconscious becomes receptive, like fertile ground ready to receive seeds. Few realize the power of this moment. Most lie down carrying worries, reviewing debts, repeating internal dialogues of fear. They don't understand that in this state each thought is recorded with greater intensity and becomes a script for the following days. Napoleon Hill insisted that the mind absorbs and acts on everything that is mixed with emotion and repeated with conviction. This means that what you think and feel before falling asleep is not just a reflection of the day, but a command perpetuated in the unconscious. Those who go to bed with anxiety reap anxiety. Those who go to bed with gratitude reap gratitude. This is not mysticism, but a simple mechanism of the human mind. The unconscious does not judge, compare, or question. It simply registers as truth everything that is repeated with emotion. During the day, distractions drown out some of these voices. Deadlines, commitments, and external noises occupy our consciousness. At night, when silence arrives, the door opens. If you don't fill this space with images of prosperity, it will automatically be filled with the residue of fear. This is why so many people fall asleep exhausted and wake up even more tired. They've spent hours watering their mental garden with scenarios of scarcity. But it's possible to transform this moment into a reprogramming practice. The nightly ritual doesn't need to be long or complicated. It needs to be consistent and charged with intention. Imagine yourself lying down, breathing deeply, feeling your muscles loosen. As you inhale, visualize your worries as dark threads leaving your chest and dissipating into the air. Each exhale creates space within you. In this empty space, bring the image of a golden flame that emerges small over your heart and grows with each breath. This flame represents spiritual prosperity, not just money, but also vital energy, confidence, clarity, and opportunities. The more you nourish it with your breath, the more it illuminates your body and mind. In this state, choose a short, powerful phrase. It could be, "I release the chains of scarcity and receive the flow of abundance." Or, "Money comes to me in harmony and lightness." The essential thing is not the exact form of the words, but the emotion with which they are spoken. Hill stated that faith is the starting point of all achievement. Empty repetition has no effect. It is the feeling that imprints the message on the subconscious. When uttering your affirmation, don't speak as if you desire it. Speak as if you already have it. Feel the gratitude of those who have received it. This ritual, practiced night after night, creates profound impressions. It doesn't take hours. 10 minutes is enough to install new images. The secret lies in repetition. Think of a sculptor striking a stone. A single blow seems futile, but the sum of the movements opens the desired form. The same happens with the mind. Each night of practice is a blow to the old pattern until suddenly the rock breaks and the form of abundance appears. The impact of this practice manifests itself in subtle ways at first. You wake up feeling lighter, make decisions more clearly, and perceive opportunities you hadn't seen before. Situations that used to end in loss now seem to resolve themselves unexpectedly. People cross your path at just the right moment. Ideas emerge effortlessly. Resources appear from unlikely places. It's no coincidence. It's the unconscious, reprogrammed, opening paths. Over time, the practice stops being an exercise and becomes part of who you are. You no longer lie down carrying the weight of fear, but with the serenity of someone who trusts the flow. Money stops being a threat and becomes an ally. Prosperity stops being a distant dream and becomes a natural state. The nightly ritual is not a passing trick. It is discipline. It is the bridge between conscious desire and unconscious belief. And the effects aren't limited to you. When your energy shifts, your home changes. Your relationships with those close to you transform. The vibrational field you emanate influences your children, partners, and friends. The prosperity you cultivate within yourself ignites a flame that also illuminates those around you. This is the power of an aligned mind. It not only receives but spreads. Hill said that any idea held firmly and emotionally tends to seek its realization in the practical world. The nighttime ritual is a way to give the unconscious clear instructions. You plant images of abundance and let the system work silently during sleep to make them a reality. It's an invisible but infallible process. It requires persistence because the old mind will resist. But just as water wears away stone, constancy paves the way. Ultimately, this practice isn't just about money. It's about identity. Over time, you realize that you're not just attracting resources, but awakening a new version of yourself. Prosperity is no longer something you seek outside. It's something that vibrates within. You don't go to sleep trying to believe it. You go to sleep already believing it. And when that happens, life begins to respond accordingly. This is the point at which you understand that true wealth isn't measured solely in numbers, but in who you become in the process. The nighttime ritual serves not only to attract circumstances, but to solidify an abundant identity. From the moment you perceive yourself as someone who lives in this state, everything around you organizes itself to reflect this new reality. Rest takes on a new flavor. The days begin differently. Your relationship with time changes. There's no longer a desperate rush, but rather a calm confidence. And it's in this confidence that true strength lies, because money doesn't need to be pursued. It naturally approaches those who already vibrate in tune with it. There comes a point in the journey where practice stops being just discipline and becomes second nature. At first, repeating prosperity phrases every night may feel artificial. You close your eyes, breathe, imagine a golden flame, repeat affirmations. It feels like conscious effort, almost like a forced exercise. But with repetition, something subtle begins to change. It's like learning a new language. At first, each word demands attention, but suddenly one day you find yourself thinking naturally in that language, effortlessly. The same happens with abundance. One day you realize you're no longer trying to believe, you are. When this awakening occurs, prosperity ceases to be a distant goal and becomes a state of being. You wake up and no longer feel the same old anxiety when looking at your bills. Fears may still arise, but they no longer dominate. It's as if the flame lit in the night's ritual remains lit throughout the day, guiding decisions, inspiring actions, and strengthening choices. Abundance becomes like a continuous breath, discreet, silent, but ever-present. Napoleon Hill said that no one becomes rich simply by accumulating wealth, but by enriching their minds. This enrichment isn't limited to information or strategies. It's about internal expansion, a renewed identity. Prosperity as an identity is the silent conviction that you are already abundant, regardless of external circumstances. This state isn't born of achievement, but of an inner certainty. At this point, you begin to perceive concrete transformations. Situations that previously paralyzed you now become opportunities for action. Your intuition strengthens, and ideas that previously seemed impossible emerge with clarity. Your unconscious, reprogrammed night after night begins to guide your actions naturally. You don't need to force courage. It arises. You don't need to chase opportunities. They appear in your path because your energy is aligned with them. This awakening also changes the way you view money. It ceases to be a ghost or an obsession. It's no longer seen as a problem to be solved or an unattainable trophy. It becomes understood as energy in motion, a reflection of your abundant consciousness. When it arrives, you don't hold it in fear, nor spend it with guilt. You manage it with balance, knowing that it circulates and returns. This lightness opens space for an even greater flow. Prosperity in this state is not a burden, but a naturalness. And perhaps most transformative is the realization that abundance isn't limited to the financial sphere. It spills over into all areas. Your relationships become healthier because you no longer live in need, waiting for someone to fill the void. Your health improves because your body responds to the new energy. Your spirit finds peace because it no longer needs to prove its worth through external achievements. The alignment that begins in the mind spreads throughout the body, relationships, and life as a whole. This change doesn't go unnoticed. People around you begin to notice. Some will say there's something different in your gaze, your posture, the way you speak. It's a calm, not arrogant confidence, a tranquility that conveys security. You're not trying to convince anyone of anything. You're simply living what you've become. Prosperity at this point isn't talk, it's presence. Hill reminded us that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. This phrase takes on new meaning when you no longer have to strive to believe. You conceive, you believe, and you feel it as present truth. There is no contradiction between desire and faith. They merge, and it is in this fusion that the external world responds. Circumstances seem to arrange themselves in your favor. Paths open up. Encounters happen at the right time. What was once a struggle becomes a flow. Another profound aspect of this awakening is the liberation from haste. Those who live in scarcity are always in a hurry to receive, a hurry to complete, a hurry to ensure nothing will be lacking. Those who live in abundance know how to wait. They don't wait passively but with confidence. They act consistently but without despair. They know that what they seek is already in motion to find them. This serenity is one of the greatest marks of true prosperity. And don't think this leads to complacency, quite the contrary. Those who awaken to abundance act even more, create more and dare more. But these actions are not driven by fear, but by inspiration. The burning desire remains, but now it is accompanied by the certainty that everything happens in its own time. This certainty transforms plans into achievements and dreams into concrete experiences. In this state, life stops being a tiring race and becomes a dance. Each step is guided by an invisible music, and you no longer fear missing a beat. You know that somehow the flow always takes you to the right place. Prosperity stops being a pursuit and becomes a companion. It's no longer something to conquer, but a natural expression of who you are. And perhaps this is the true climax of the journey, realizing that power lies not just in practicing a ritual, but in allowing that ritual to transform your identity. When you become prosperity in motion, money, opportunities, and abundance cease to be occasional visitors and become an integral part of your life. The external aligns with the internal, and everything flows with a naturalness that previously seemed impossible. The real turning point comes when you understand that it's not money that determines who you are, but the state of your mind and soul. Prosperity isn't a sum of numbers. It's a reflection of an aligned consciousness, of an energy that has been reprogrammed night after night until it becomes natural. Napoleon Hill said that whatever the mind is capable of imagining and believing can become reality. The key has always been within you, but it often remains hidden beneath layers of fear, inherited beliefs, and unconscious repetitions. Throughout this journey, we've seen how invisible knots can imprison your prosperity, how the silent voice of the unconscious sabotages dreams, how invisible legacies shape destinies without us even realizing it. We've also seen that there is a way out, the simple act of using the night as a fertile field where new seeds are planted and old patterns are shattered. And more than a technique, it's a daily choice. Each repetition is a hammer blow on the old stone. Each affirmation is a brick in the construction of a new identity. Each positive image is a firm step toward a different life. From now on, every time you lie down to rest, you will face a decision. You can fall asleep weighed down by your fears, or you can choose to hold the key to abundance in your hands. You can relive the old scene of worries, or you can create new images filled with faith, trust, and gratitude. The unconscious will always be ready to record. It's up to you to decide what you want it to record, and I leave you with a sincere invitation. When you finish this video, write in the comments what you feel you still need to let go of. Share the chain that still binds you, the phrase you wish to replace, the desire that beats in your heart. And also tell us where you're following this message from, city and country, so that together we can realize that we don't walk alone. There is a network of people in different parts of the world awakening to the same truth. If this message spoke to your heart, subscribe to the channel. But see this gesture not as a trivial click, but as a symbol of belonging. By subscribing, you declare to yourself that you are part of this community of seekers who believe that prosperity is not a privilege, but a state of consciousness. Always remember, abundance isn't something that will just arrive tomorrow. It's already here, waiting for you to recognize it. When you allow yourself to live as prosperity, everything falls into place. Doors open, chains loosen, fears lose their power, and what once seemed unattainable begins to manifest naturally. Let this be your daily choice. Not just to desire prosperity, but to be prosperity. Not just to wait for abundance, but to wake up every day as someone who already carries it in their spirit. Because true wealth has never been outside, it has always been within you.